What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Early Edge. It's Sunday night football time, and I'm not Coach. Coach is, I'd say, on assignment, but he's doing his regular yearly trip. I'd say it's a golf trip. Really, it's a charity trip. So he's doing that. We don't have Proppy on the show, and so I thought to myself, well, we don't have a lot of guys here, so maybe we don't have a lot of bets. Oh, I was wrong because I took a peek at the picks for this show. We've got Coach Phil. We've got AB. We've got myself coming off this dominant Niners win that we talked about earlier today. Let's bring in the stars of the show, none other than Coach Phil, AB. Can't wait to get started, fellas. I'm feeling pretty good because if you follow me on Twitter, a lot of people were chirping at me when the Niners were down 6-0 because I've been very boastful about how good I think the Niners are this year, how good they were last year. Coach Phil, I got to kick it to you right away. Just before we get into this game, just a couple of comments on this Niners team, because I know you've been big on this Niners team as soon as they got fully healthy. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think whenever they have the tackle, Trent Williams is healthy and Deebo Samuel is healthy and all their pieces are playing, they're a very difficult football team to stop. They're one of my favorite football teams to watch. I kind of have a football crush in the 49ers roster, but they are absolutely awesome. And what they did to the Eagles on the road today was a statement.
Absolutely. All right, AB, but we're here, of course, for Kansas City, for Green Bay. Green Bay's looked a little bit better lately. Honestly, I've not been on the Jordan Love train, but I got to admit he's looked pretty good. But before we get into anything Green Bay related, let's talk about the visitors, the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, one of the best teams in football. They're favored, odds powered by BetMGM, of course, as always on the Early Edge. They're favored by, I believe, 5.5 still. It's between 5.5 and 6. We got about a 43.5 point total. Coach Phil, we always do your keys to the game first. So let's start on the Kansas City side.
Yeah, so Kansas City, their offense, they're starting to find their way. Their offense looked good against the Raiders last week, and I feel Patrick is gaining some confidence. Threw for 298, a couple of scores, 122 rating. You know, there's a lot of different moving parts. The receiving core wasn't playing particularly well, but that protection is starting to become a little bit better, getting some poor play by the tackles, trying to shore some things up. So it looks like they're moving in a positive direction. The weapons, and we'll talk about the running back, Isaiah Pacheco. I like this guy between the tackles. Arguably one of the hardest runners in the NFL. Look for him to have a nice game tonight. Kelsey averages about 77 yards a game over the last 5 games. He's scoring almost every other week or so. Rashee Rice had an awesome week last week. He had 8 catches, 107, and a touchdown. They are looking for the second-round pick to break through, and it looks like he's appearing to do so. This would be a good road test with temperatures in the 20s, so it will resemble a playoff atmosphere for the Chiefs. The second thing is this Chiefs defense is flat out legit. This may be the most complete Chiefs defense that they've had in years. They're 4th overall. They're 3rd against the pass. The one area they need to improve, they're 19th in rushing yards allowed with 113 a game. They're 5th in the league with 37 sacks, and then 5th with forced fumbles with 11. Spagnuolo has his defense playing excellent. They are primed for postseason play.
All right, I want to kick it to AB for maybe a couple picks, maybe a couple questions. But before I do that, AB, Coach Phil, I want to go back to you just really quick. Oh, by the way, everybody in the chat, hit the like button for me. Let's try to get as many likes as possible so I can show off to Coach on the one prime time game that he's not here. But Coach Phil, as far as Rashee Rice is concerned, because I'm going to have a question about Jordan Love too when we get to their keys. But in terms of his maturation and his growth, are you seeing something from him that gives you the peace of mind that, okay, he is going to be the receiver for the Chiefs, not just this year, but in the coming seasons? Because I think everybody wants to know, is it going to be a little Rashee Rice this game, a little Justin Watson this game, none of them some game because it's Kadarius Toney or MVS? Like, is Rashee Rice showing you anything that makes you confident that he's going to establish himself as a clear number 1 in this offense?
The 2 things that have me most excited that he may potentially be a high 2, I don't believe he has the size, the prototypical size that I would like in a 1. But if he's going to be a high 2, he's a second-round pick, so you spend a second-round pick, you probably should have a 2. I see Patrick targeting him. That's the first thing. Patrick is looking for him more than the other guys. So that means that they're practicing more plays at practice, and more plays in practice are getting to the game plan. So that means Andy Reid has confidence in him. Also, just seeing this young guy's progression where he's running out of his catch, catching the ball through the break point, turning up field with some run after catch, and catching the ball confidently with his hands. I've seen some advancements in his overall confidence with his game.
Yeah, fair enough. I like that analysis there, because I think a lot of people are wanting Rashee Rice to emerge. And you know, he's still young, so he's still got time. AB, listen, when I looked at the sheet, I peeked because I'm hosting tonight. I looked at the sheet. I looked at everybody's picks. And I don't know how many picks you want to give out right now because we have the no-fly zone coming up, and I know you have picks related to that. You and Coach Phil are awesome on that. But there were some Kansas City Chiefs picks because, like, full disclosure, I wasn't sure how to play this game. It really wasn't. Like, from a prop standpoint, there was only one prop I really liked. And then just from a total standpoint against the spread, I was really searching for things that I liked. And then I saw your picks and I'm like, oh, I missed all of those. So I don't know how many you want to give out now versus later after the no-fly zone. But are there a couple Chiefs plays you want to clue the audience in on right now?
There are, absolutely. All right, now, first off, let me say we have to address two things really quickly. This 49ers-Eagles game. See, I have to give you props because all of us were like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to bet. You said, fellas, I know exactly what to bet. It's the 49ers, and you were 100% right. I went with 49ers, Eagles, both teams to score 20-plus points. The Eagles went for 2 after they scored a touchdown and ended at 19, so that's brutal. However, It's been a great day, so I'm not going to complain about that at all. What we're going to do is we're going to give out, honestly, I've got 5 picks. We're going smorgasbord picks tonight. I'm going to give out 4 of them right here, and we're going to give one after the no-fly zone. But I want you guys' thoughts, so I'm going to leave you on right here. So first off, let's hit this one, okay? BetMGM early edge special. Chiefs money line, both teams to score 10 points or more. That's it. Minus 135, a little juicy. That being said, we're essentially betting the Chiefs money line and bringing the juice way down because, quite frankly,
AB, I love this so much. I love this. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is creative, but it just makes so much sense because I didn't want to lay the points. I just didn't. And maybe laying the points is the right play. I'm not sure. But getting them money line, I do think they're the better team. And 10-plus points each doesn't seem like a super tall task. So sorry to interrupt you, but this is one of the many plays that I absolutely love.
Yeah, and honestly, I was the same way. Like, I did not want to play the spread at all, especially with the Chiefs on the road. Green Bay's playing good football. Mm-hmm. That Lambeau does have, there's a stadium difference there, right? Like, it's not an easy place to go. But we're essentially playing the Chiefs money line and bringing the juice down. So minus 135. Now, there are 3 other ones, but we're going to hit this one. And we've been doing this the last couple of weeks, and it's been paying off nicely for us. Patrick Mahomes, over 3.5 rush attempts, minus 125. We played it all over the board today. Russ hit it for us. Kyler hit it for us. Keep going down the list, right? I love Mahomes, and we're getting these numbers at 3.5. Again, they'll design runs for him. He'll get flushed and scrambled. And again, as I always say, we never, ever count on kneel downs at the end of a game. We don't count on that. But it is insurance if the Chiefs have a lead and they're just kneeling down. Not to mention, you know what is a sneaky good one of this as well? When you get a team that, say they give up a touchdown at the end of, close to the end of the second quarter with about 24 seconds left. There's really not enough time to do anything, but you have to field the kickoff and kneel down. Mahomes does this too. Like, they'll do it. You could steal little ones here and there. So we're going to play over 3.5. Now, the final 2 for the Chiefs, all right? We're going to play first half team total over 12.5 points, minus 115. We're also going to play Chiefs second half team total over 11.5 at minus 110. And let me pull up a graphic, and it might block you guys. I apologize on this, but I want to show why we are doing and playing both sides. So here is scoring for both teams per quarter. And I apologize for the graphic. It's one of the worst I've ever made, but you know what? We did it in quick time. This is what each team averages throughout this year in terms of the quarters. Okay. Look at Green Bay in the second half. We'll get to them in a little bit in regards to that. But look at the Chiefs. The second quarter, they are monsters. They do it over and over and over. That's why I wanted to play the first half at 12.5. And understand, when you're playing these first quarter, or when you're playing any first half, second half, all right, 12.5 and under is great because touchdown, field goal, get you to 13. 13.5 is a killer. You're essentially betting touchdowns. You might as well just play touchdowns and play it at plus money. But again, take a look at Kansas City in the second quarter. And that's going to come up in the no-fly zone too. But that's why we're playing, again, both of the Chiefs. First half, 12.5, over 12.5. Second half, over 11.5.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all those, especially and I know the chat was all over the rushing attempts and rushing yardage for Pat Mahomes. Before this show even started, I saw some chatter in there about that. So we'll actually get to the rushing yards component later in the show because I kind of like both for Patrick Mahomes and frankly for Jordan Love too. I kind of like that. But Phil, I'm going to go right back to you because how many bets have we already given out? 4. We haven't even gotten to the Green Bay Packers yet. So
Sure.
let's talk about the keys to the game for Green Bay.
Jordan Love is improving over the course of the season. He's gotten better on a week-to-week basis, and he's playing his best football this season currently. Last week versus Detroit, he had 268 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, a 125 rating. That's back-to-back games with a 100-plus rating, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks over the last 2 games. So the stats are showing that that's true. Overall, they're the 20th ranked offense in the NFL, which is not terrible. They are 7th in third down efficiency, which is key to keeping these drives alive and why they stay in so many of these games is they're able to convert on third down with his arm and his legs. They're excellent on third down. 7th is really, really what's keeping this team even competitive in most of these games. They're 18th in the league in points with 21 points per game, and it'll be interesting to see if they get that total against Kansas City Chiefs' tough defense. Talking about the running game, Dillon or Love, who's going to get more rushing yards is probably a legitimate discussion that you guys can have. From the receiver room, it's hard to determine every week. Is it going to be Dobbs? Is it going to be Reed, who's questionable? Watson finally showed up last week. He's not been on, Cia knows this. He's been on my fantasy football bench for the whole season and had a breakout game last week. So we're going to play him tonight and hope he can get loose. KC defense is going to present some real unique challenges for these guys tonight. Key number 2, can the Packers defense contain Mahomes? All right, last week, Green Bay had 3 strip sack turnovers of Jared Goff, which is phenomenal. They had 12 total takeaways on the year, only 5 interceptions, which is 31st in league. And when you're going against Patrick Mahomes, that does not help. Green Bay is at 27th in rushing yards allowed with 135. So again, we talked about Pacheco being a great running back. So that'll be a challenge for the defense there. But the Packers will need a relentless pass rush, great coverage, and multiple turnovers to beat the Chiefs at home tonight.
All right. I love that. And by the way, that Packers defense getting a little bit, I'm wearing Packers yellow, but it's kind of by accident, but that defense getting healthier. That's why I really don't know what to do with this game because the Chiefs have sputtered here and there. Another guy that sputtered, Coach Phil, you mentioned it, and we'll just go right into my pick. Christian Watson. He's been very inconsistent this year. Now, that's not completely on him. Obviously, he's been injured, but the quarterback play hasn't always been great. And honestly, there are a plethora of receivers for Jordan Love to throw to. But what we saw from Christian Watson last week, I think is going to be a little bit more of what we're going to see the rest of the season. If he is healthy, I do think he's going to end up being the wide receiver 1 for this team, this game, and for all the games to come in the regular season. The long and short of it is, his rushing and receiving prop is 41.5. The reason I'm including rushing there is because I do think we might see Christian Watson in the backfield, maybe for 1 or 2 plays. Maybe he's the subject of an end around. We know Jaden Reed has been getting that work, but Jaden Reed, while he's active, he has been banged up a little bit. And I could see, if we're going to see some runs without Aaron Jones in the lineup, I could see maybe instead of Jaden Reed, a couple going to Christian Watson. For the record, the difference between the rushing and receiving prop and just the simple receiving prop for Christian Watson is only 1 yard. So we're not really asking much more if we include the rushing component in here. But yeah, I like Christian Watson. I like what I saw from him last game. I think when it comes to the receiving core, Dobbs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed can all succeed. We know Musgrave is still out. I don't think Kraft is going to get a ton of work. So I do think we're going to see a little bit more of a condensed share. And we know Watson, he's a guy that can get down the field, but also he can break it. And yak is definitely a thing for Christian Watson. So I just think when we look at this number, I think the market is really looking at his full season. And I totally get that. But I think we're going to see a little bit more from last week in terms of what we're going to see for the future. So give me Christian Watson over 41.5 rushing and receiving yards. Coach Phil, let me just kick it back to you real quick before we get to the no-fly zone.
Phil was a yak god, weren't you? Dude, you were yak all over the field.
I was a 50-50 guy.
Sorry.
There you go.
I was a 7-1. I was a 7-1 high jumper. Just put it up in the air, buddy.
All right, there we go.
Wow. What a show off. Contested catch guy. I like it. All right.
Strong hand, son.
Coach Phil, your thoughts on Christian Watson and this passing game in general? I told you I was going to ask you about Jordan Love. Are you seeing the type of maturation where he might be able to dish it out and have a high completion percentage for once and get guys like Christian Watson involved?
I think he's ascending. I just don't think the sample size for me is enough to make a projection on what I'm going to see. Is Christian Watson talented? Yeah, he was super talented last year. He's super talented this year. He's been injured. And then when he plays well. And then sometimes he doesn't play so well. So it's just like they're finding their footing. And I could tell by some of the ways that Coach LaFleur was at his press conference that they were just not quite there. They were not up to standard yet. And I feel right now they're starting to play to at least the standard that he has set forward for that football team. So I think now we'll start to determine whether Christian Watson is going to be something that we can sustain. Because some of those are just 50-50 jump ball deep down the field, take a shot, and he made 2 plays. It's hard to sustain that every week. So just looking at the nature of the plays, if he's gonna come down with those every week, like a Mike Evans or a Cortland Sutton, then that would be something that I would be interested in him doing.
Very true. I mean, if he's going to succeed, we're going to need to see him get more targets. That's for sure. And that would be the only worry about this bet. But again, 41.5, I do think he's capable of doing that on 1 or 2 catches.
The end around piece that you talked about is important too, because you get in these short yardage and they get in these bear fronts where every gap is covered. And you saw, I think Godwin had one today. Yep. Even Bobby Okonkwo had one for it didn't work out real well. I think he got 5 yards. But it's the look, right? It's the look. So you wonder, why are they running an end around on 3rd and 1? It's because every gap is covered. So then they send the receiver in motion. You say can. They can to the reverse. It's whoever the fastest guy in the field is, and it's a handoff jet sweep, and it gets a yard or it gets 40. And I thought that was smart if you're only leveraging a yard, because that is plausible.
By the way, in the chat, I'm seeing a lot of comments from our 12 o'clock NFL kickoff show. So for any of you that are in here, and I don't know how many there are, I'm not looking at it right now, please hit the like button again. But if you were in here at 12 o'clock, there were so many things we gave out on the show, and they don't always hit, but somebody just commented on the Tua longest completion. And AB, you were all over that, right? We were talking about Tua at the end of the show, maybe at the beginning of the show too, in terms of his longest completion. He hit that with Tyreek Hill right away. And there was somebody else who mentioned Elijah Moore and me kind of incorporating that from a DFS standpoint. He was only 3,500 in DraftKings, and he had a pretty good game. So somebody was thanking me for that. I just want to remind everybody that during that NFL 12 o'clock show, it's not just about our official picks and the official picks from the prop show. It's about a lot of it is DFS. I talk about DFS. I incorporate that within my picks, talk about some low end options that I think are really going to smash. And a lot of times they really work out. And of course, it pays to watch live. There's a lot of picks we give out there too that I know for a fact this chat follows. Just because they're not official picks, it doesn't mean you can't internalize them and try to make a play on them. AB, speaking of making plays, I'm making a play for you to start the no-fly zone, because I'm actually super intrigued by this, because I know Patrick Mahomes isn't really having that Patrick Mahomes season. And Jordan Love, I mean, listen, he throws it around a little bit, but the completion percentage, it ain't great. I'm just really curious how this no-fly zone works.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now look, you just brought up not only the show and how not everything is about like the best bets. It's about, we go through every single game on the board, and we will talk about exactly that. And Jordan Love is the perfect person tonight. Usually we start with the away team quarterback. We're going to start with Jordan Love. And specifically, you guys were talking about Jordan Love and his rushing attempts tonight. His number is also 3.5. It's at plus 130. Okay. I almost played it, but the reason that I didn't is this, and this is why the no-fly zone, I'm not going to, pat myself on the back. I'm just going to say it's more than just turnovers, and I'll show you exactly why. So let's pull up Jordan Love here and take a look, because the reason that it scares me with Jordan Love in terms of his rushing attempts, number one, he's always at 2 to 3. Like, that's where his number is. Sometimes 4, sometimes 1. Average 2.5 a game. And here is why. Okay. So take a look, top right. This is Jordan Love, an amalgam of him this season. And I know it's a little difficult with all the no-fly zone spots, but essentially, we've talked about it before. This offense with Jordan Love and why it's having success, and you see 2,600 passing yards, 19 passing touchdowns, is because it's 10 yards and in. So when this offense is built to be 10 yards and in, when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes that when he sees a rush, he'll take off. Same with Kyler. Same with Russell Wilson. Jordan Love doesn't necessarily do that because the ball is intended to come out quickly. Because if it's not there, he'll throw it away, right? So you don't necessarily get those kind of, I got flushed out, I'm going to scramble, and I'm going to steal 2 rushing attempts there. I'm not saying it can't happen, But that's just why you've got a very quick, safe 10-yard and in offense with Jordan Love. Now, there's some notes that I want you to take a look at. Top left, Chiefs secondary completion percentage rankings across the NFL. Some spots pretty darn good, okay? Their defense is playing great overall. We got Jordan Love, 83% throw an interception. Now, take a look at his splits. All 10 of his interceptions have come when playing from behind. Now, they've been behind in some games this season. They've been ahead in some games this season, right? But it's generally when, and exactly what we're talking about, when you get Jordan Love and this Packers offense out of the comfort zone and you force them to throw 15-yard plays, 20-yard plays, right? That's when he gets into trouble. So you see the no-fly zone. Anything deep, he doesn't throw deep very often at all. And that's by design. Matt LaFleur has that by design. And his red zone, 14 TDs, 3 interceptions. Now, let's flip over to Patrick Mahomes. And to be honest with you, we're going to be pretty quick because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He really doesn't have that much of a no-fly zone. All right. Packers secondary, not great, not terrible. We've got Mahomes at 77% throw a pick. But Mahomes is so good, and he's such a veteran, and he's just seen so many things, and he's aggressive and has earned it, that he could throw a pick at any time because he's not really afraid of anybody's defense. He's seen it, right? Like, you could kind of bait him into it. That being said, he can also tear you apart. And even when he makes mistakes, they still come out successful. All right. Now, go back to what I was talking about with the Chiefs in the second quarter. You remember that number, highest in the NFL. Look at his interceptions. All right. He's thrown 21 TDs, 9 picks. 67% of his interceptions are in the second quarter. So that goes to show you that they're even more aggressive than what their points tell you, right? This team gets going. They start a little slow in the first. Second quarter, they start on fire, and they generally get going. It's kind of like baseball. When you've gone through the lineup and you've seen the pitcher one time, all right, now we're good. I've seen your stuff. Let's go. Red zone, 18 TDs, 2 picks. I'll bring myself back on because, like I said, it's Patrick Mahomes. There's really nothing that we're going to chart that you're necessarily going to learn unless there is an absolute specific defense that's coming after him. And even though it's nothing against the Packers, that's not this defense, right? So I don't have to. Phil's going to have probably more than I will. But what I do have is this one final play that we're going to go on. Packers, second half, team total over 8.5 points. Touchdown and a field goal. Or if you want to get 2 touchdowns, be my guest. Don't really care. But we're going to play it over 8.5, minus 115. And again, I'll bring that graphic up really, really quickly and then get it out of here because it is kind of ugly, but it does show. All right, take a look at the Packers. First quarter, 40 points. Total. That's through what? 11 games, right? Second quarter, 42. This is really not a fast-starting team because of the offense. It's low risk. They don't push it down the field. But once they get going in the second half, that's when they start to attack you, all right? 84 points in the third, 65 in the fourth. Sometimes it's because they're behind and they don't have a choice. But other times, they start to feel a little bit, right? So, again, that's why we're going to play Packers in the second half.
Yeah, AB early in the first half of the season, I should say. I covered some lines. I think it was against the Falcons. They were down like 16-0 or 17-0. I actually had the Packers money line in that game, and Jordan Love and company put up 17 or 18 points literally in the fourth quarter in the last 6 minutes. So like they are, they appear to be a good team making adjustments at least after the half. So,
that's true. That is true.
Look at the Chiefs. What have the Chiefs done for 10 years? Like our best game script is the Chiefs start super hot. All right. Force it. Second half. Packers have to step up. Like
they want to win the toss too. Chiefs win the toss, start super hot,
go, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I like these in any game script, but that's the perfect one. Like that would be.
You got to think it through like that, right? Like that's what we're talking about here. Like the 8.5, it's a field goal touchdown. It's important who gets the ball at half. I mean, so you're looking for all these things. You're trying to tell a story when you're talking about a game. So with Jordan Love, we're talking about the rushing attempts. Well, I saw designed runs for Jordan Love. I didn't see any designed runs for Patrick. So you would think, oh, okay, well, Patrick and Jordan are both scramblers, and now we have Jordan Love having designed run. Interesting. So that would lean more towards Jordan Love being the one who's going to hit before Patrick does with the rushes. You know, talking about throwing picks like we always do with this, Jordan, in my opinion, you have it up there 100% interception rate when he's been behind. Also on 3rd and 7 plus, right? So those are the areas that he's going to be in. Chris Jones, with the caliber of pass rusher that he is from the interior, that's not common. Most people typically do have edge players in the 5 techniques and the rush ends, but having a 3 technique with the guard and center in your lap is different because you can't step into your throws. So, those are just some things to look for with Jordan and his ability to throw a pick. Talking about Patrick, I totally agree with you. It's hard to prognosticate whether Patrick is going to have a bad night or not because he's just so good. But with the weather being what it is, the receiver can slip, the ball can slip out of your hand. It's cold, and then you got Preston Smith. He has great length. Quay Walker, another linebacker with great length. They can get their hands, and the different arm angles, they can get their hands on the football, and the ball can get batted, as we've seen happen from a number of times. So is it something I think is highly probable to happen tonight? Absolutely not, but there are ways that it can happen.
Coach Phil, I got a question for you, because when I mentioned the Packers potentially making quality halftime adjustments, you said, yeah, that's true. I mean, obviously you will be a coach in the league again, and probably next year, and you were a coach in the league and a player, of course. Did you say, yeah, that's true because of like Matt LaFleur's tendency to make good halftime adjustments, or did you say that for another reason?
I think they did. I was watching a game and they just, or probably week 4 or 5, they just lit somebody up for tons of points and yards. And then I know they were down by a bunch. They ended up coming back and winning the football game. And I just was like, wow, yeah. I thought that they were dead in the water, and to see the kid basically resuscitate what everybody said was him as a failed first round pick. Let's call it what it was. People, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he ended up having more signs of life after that one. I don't know the game off the top of my head, but they came out and they just were rolling. And then they did that several times in the second half. Not quite to that caliber, but they came out better in the second half, which sometimes is just a young quarterback just trying to do too much. And he's a little nerved up, or maybe that team is just so young, they just can't execute the first 15 the way that you'd like to. But that's rare. Most people come out and hit the first 15, 10 of 15 plays will be efficient.
Yeah, I want to say this real quick. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but going off of exactly, Phil, what you just said, I've had people ask me, they're like, man, like you've dropped off in terms of playing interception props, turnover props. And yeah, part of it is buckets because he's just on fire, but also it's because look at this time in the season. Historically, turnovers come down, picks come way down, because you're comfortable with your guys. Your timing is right. Your quarterback feels good, not only with the offensive line, but your receivers, your young receivers, your young quarterbacks, right? They start to get exactly what Phil was just saying. The first 3 games, you're nervous as hell, man. Even veterans are, right? Like, it's just that energy, that juice in you. You're not even nervous. It's just you're fired up. Now, you're 13 weeks into the season, right?
True.
Yeah, like you've calmed down. Body's good. You understand. And the play calling, same thing with coaches. Phil, you know that area too, that you're like, okay, I've kind of seen, I thought coming into the year, we would be really aggressive here. Maybe not so much, but we could be really aggressive here. And everyone starts to get better. You know what I mean? So like, I just wanted to say like exactly what Phil's saying. Yeah. Like the mistakes tend to go down and the risk tends to go down. So that's why I've really liked quarterback rushing props over the last 3 weeks, because they've been doing it, right? And they've been taking that risk out and just saying, I'll get 3, 4, 5 yards and play for another down.
And that's part of the maturation process of a young quarterback, also like of the season. So as a head coach, if your quarterback keeps it and he slides, no problem. Some of these guys are letting him actually run the ball for real. Like Jordan's going to run the ball tonight because they're fighting for every inch, so you're willing to risk some small minor risk management when it comes to running your quarterback in regards to getting first downs, and most importantly, securing and possessing the football and decreasing the turnovers. Now you do have outdoor elements, which we saw tons of weather throughout. So you always have a caveat with weather, but like those dome teams, week 13, 14, the turnovers should dissipate for sure.
Coach Phil, one more question about Jordan Love. Just as an FYI, his rushing prop is 15.5. Again, 3.5 rush attempts was his rushing prop. Do you expect to see Jordan Love create some offense with his legs, whether it be in the design route or whether him being scampering away from the pressure that we know Chris Jones and company can affect?
I think both, honestly. I think tonight's a night where he's going to have to run to escape maybe Karlaftis, Dana, and Jones, and they bring a sophisticated blitz package. And again, they do play some man coverage, so there's some lanes that he can get out. I saw some zone read that was in last week, on Thanksgiving. So to me, this is the one that looks most probable with the quarterback rushing.
Yeah, and for the record, AB's play, which was the rush attempts play, I believe Patrick Mahomes has hit this rushing attempt total in 6 of his last 7 games. Probably a couple of those are the kneel down variety, AB, in terms of actually capturing that rush attempt total. But 6 out of 7, that's looking pretty good. As far as AB's bets and my bet, where can you place these bets, you ask? Well, I know one place you can place them. Let's bring up Willie Beeman, a.k.a. Jamie Foxx. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get $200 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you will receive $200 instantly in bonus bets, regardless of your wager's outcome, with bonus code EDGE200. Again, that's bonus code EDGE200. Gentlemen, AB, before we get to the VJM, is there anything, maybe you noticed in the chat, is there anything we didn't cover? I know the quarterback rushing was something that people wanted to talk about. I actually like, for the record, I like both quarterback rushing props in terms of the yardage and the rush attempts. That's just me, and I think everything kind of points in that direction. Anything else we didn't cover? Anything else somebody wants to say before we get to the VJM?
Yeah. Go ahead, Phil. What I was going to say was
I just want to make sure
while we do this. Go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we talk about, just talking about realistic expectations with, all of us here at some point with quarterbacks and young quarterbacks in particular. So at some point, whether we do the gems first or we do that now, it's completely up to you.
Yeah, let's do that now.
So I think with these young quarterbacks, would you not agree that everybody has an accelerated timeline with like Jordan Love and all these guys, and how quickly that they what do you feel is a realistic, from just your perspective, AB, your perspective, what's a realistic timeline for a young quarterback to be a franchise guy?
Okay, so here's the thing. I love this question, no pun intended, because what we've been doing to young quarterbacks over the last 10 to 15 years is completely ridiculous in terms of thrusting them in just so that the GM can give himself a pat on the back, or the coach or owner can give themselves a pat on the back. They get thrust in way too early a lot of times. If you're asking me, I think sometimes it should be 2 years that you're sitting on the bench observing what you need to observe pre-snap and post-snap just to get in the game and feel some semblance of confidence. So to your point about Jordan Love, even though I've been on Jordan Love, I don't think he's a great NFL quarterback. I should say a great starting NFL quarterback. But for the record, I absolutely could be wrong. And he's starting to prove me wrong because of what you said, Coach Phil. He's starting to get more reps. He's starting to get more experience. And now we're looking at a quarterback that might actually be comfortable in an offense, whereas you throw him in early, and granted, he was on the bench for a while, but I think these guys need reps, but I also think they need to be on the bench first.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Let me give you 3 examples this year of rookies that shows you how difficult this is. And I think that the correct answer is it's a team game. You have to have building an offensive line, building pieces around. But let's take a look at 3 guys this year, okay? CJ Stroud, who has just said, the hell with it, I'm just going to ball. Anthony Richardson, who was doing that, but got injured and is done for the year. And then Bryce Young. What do you do, right? Like, is Bryce Young that much worse, or is his team that much worse? It's a bad team overall, but it's not that much worse than Houston, right? Like, Houston is not the greatest roster. CJ Stroud is just balling. And then Anthony Richardson, I mean, he was looking good. He looked better than I thought. I watched this kid at Florida, and he would have a good game and then 3 horrible games, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I lean to you guys. I don't know the answer other than the teams that build around it and are ready to go are the teams that are going to have success, a la the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, right?
Right.
It's so much easier to dump him in. Josh Allen with the Bills. And Josh Allen with the Bills was one of the only quarterbacks who actually got more accurate from college to the NFL. That never happened.
His first year in 2018, he was not very accurate. He was not, I think, in the 50s, 53 or 54%. I think when you look at all these things that, the realistic expectation is like, well, they want to win a division. Okay, so how long take to win a division? And can you win a playoff game, including the Super Bowl with a guy? And if you can't, they move off people so fast, they don't give them enough sample size to actually be evaluated. But the reality is, okay, so say they throw out a young quarterback like Jordan Love. You go to free agency. Who's in there? Oh, there was Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo last year. Okay, if you don't, tell me how those are going. Then you go to the draft. You got one kid in the draft that's a guaranteed, Caleb Williams. Drake may, he could be good, but like you're not really certain. So I just think like this cycle that we're on with these churn and burn, like give the kid a chance, like give him this full season, give him the full off season. And then like after next year, we make a decision on whether Jordan Love is a good enough football player rather than like week to week, we're throwing this kid out.
Yeah. And let me say this. We have to get to the gym. I know.
Yeah.
So we see it. Go ahead and throw to that. But I'll say offensive line, I've never in my life seen a larger difference between supply and demand than what there is right now. In college and the NFL, there are not many great offensive linemen coming out. So when you have a guy like Trent Williams, keep going down the list, like these dudes are worth every single pick. That's why the 49ers are like, we don't even care about the quarterback position. Yeah. Just get my offensive line and defensive line right, and we can figure it out from there. So, yeah, man, like these teams that are finding that are good scouting lines, buddy, those guys are worth their weight in gold. So, yeah.
100%. What else is worth its weight in gold is some of our gem picks in the chat. I've noticed has gotten like super anxious. Like, hey, have you guys gotten to the gem? I think it's like a rhetorical question. Like they know we haven't, but they're just trying to be nice. Like, hey, you guys are going to get to the gem, right? So let's get to the gem. And by the way, because there's only 3 of us, we decided, well, let's pick 2 each here. And I'm not suggesting everybody bet all 6 of these, bet the ones you like, but the one that I put down first, the one that I like, this is a name that should look familiar to everybody because he's my bet rushing and receiving over 41.5 yards. I'm going with the Christian Watson because I just think he is the most likely to have a house call early against the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, if last week is any indication, and by the way, last week is a very small sample size, but if last week is any indication as to the connection, or I should say the love connection between Jordan Love and Christian Watson, then I think we're in for something special the rest of the way. And by the way, these Green Bay Packers are not out of the playoff hunt at all. They are very much in the playoff hunt. So keep that in mind when you're watching this game. But I'm going to do a quick Christian Watson plus 1,400, plus 1,500 in some places, I believe. And then my long shot's going to be Jordan Love because I do think he's going to use his legs. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he scores the first touchdown. I love that number 33-1. All right, AB, you've got a few gems. You've got a turkey leg. Who are your 2 picks?
So let's go. All right. So first off, when you said love connection, I thought you were going to go with that circa 2007 commercial of education connection. That's a throwback. I don't know if anybody remembers that commercial.
That is not a throwback. A throwback would have been tossing it to Chuck Willery for We'll Be Back in 2 and 2. Some of you in the chat are old enough to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Willery, a legend of the game here. All right. We got 2. Rashee Rice. Coach Phil already hit on this one. Stud plus 1,100. Take it there. MVS revenge game. I saw it in the chat and we're going with it. Plus 2,500. Those 2. Let it rip. Let's go.
All right, Coach Phil, you got 2 bites at the proverbial apple. Where you headed?
Yep, 2 worms in these proverbial apples for sure. Patrick Mahomes, I like the ability to scramble, get around. Maybe he gets in for me, and then I wanted to pick Romeo Doubs because you had Watson, which I thought was, he's let me down a bunch. I wasn't going to pick him anyways. So Romeo Doubs, just when somebody has the ball, I can root for one team, and then another person I can root for them. So this is a heck of a night. We get to her, maybe I get off the snide and get myself my first gem.
I absolutely.
Hey, and I'll let me throw the picks back up. I saw a couple of people asking for it. It might have literally just dropped in. So keep going. Sorry, see you. Did not mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, not at all. And for the record, I fully endorse a lot of these picks from AB. To be honest with you, I like them all, but the ones that really stuck out to me were the Chiefs money line plus both teams to score 10 plus points at minus 135. I think that's a great number. And I like the Patrick Mahomes over rushing attempts. And I kind of like it for Jordan Love too. Not that I don't like the other 3 either, but those 2 really jumped out at me in a way that I was almost mad at myself that I didn't find them myself. So credit to AB for putting those forward. Listen, this is one of those games where, to me, there's so much unknown that I think you have to go and kind of find some of the picks. Taylor Swift is in the house, says Melissa. It's confirmed. Kelsey 4 touchdowns.
Doesn't she have a job? Doesn't she have a job?
Doesn't she have a job?
She's everywhere.
That's classic. I bet you there's so many people, just based on Melissa's comment, they're now heading to their sports book, probably BetMGM, and they're betting 2+ touchdowns for Travis
I mean,
Kelce.
Melissa's right. He balls when she's in the house, dude. Like,
Wouldn't you, buddy?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. All right, before we get out of here, AB, the game starts at 8:20, but we want to get out of here in a couple of minutes, give you guys some time before the game. But Coach Phil, I'm going to start with you here. What are you looking forward to most watching this game?
I'm looking to see how the Packers can respond to this Chiefs defense, because it's not every week you're going to see, because in division, Minnesota is not great, even Chicago's not great, Detroit Lions, you just saw what they did to them. But sometimes you get these AFC. To me, the AFC is a more powerful conference. That's why I wear my AFC colors all the time. 6 of the 7 teams I work for have been AFC teams, so I'm always an AFC guy. I do feel that when they bring an AFC team in, you get to have a litmus test to find out where some of these fringe playoff NFC teams are.
All right, and AB, before I get to your comments, I'm not going to read this comment, but it's hilarious. Jeff Stenberg, very well done, my friend. Very, very well done. This chat is always the best chat. And don't forget, by the way, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, we got the early edge. And of course, we got the Jaguars and Bengals, where I already have some prop bets I'm probably going to put in tonight, but I'm going to save some for that show tomorrow night because there's a few things I really like in that game. Duval, indeed. AB, what are you looking forward to the most in this game?
I think you just nailed it 6 minutes ago. What you just said. We're all looking at Kansas City, and rightfully so. Green Bay is in this race. This is I'm not saying it's a must win like that style. It's the must win on both teams because this is a big game. This game and every single game we're getting towards the end of the regular season, and these wins will matter more and more and more. And I understand we've got an AFC versus an NFC. I get that, but winning games is winning games, man. And Green Bay and Matt LaFleur. Look, man, I've been around Matt LaFleur. That dude, he's calm, cool, collected. He is aggressive as hell. Like Phil knows, if you coach at any place in college or the NFL, these are alpha dudes that want to win, right? But they have to go about a certain way. So, yeah, long story short, man, Green Bay wants to win this damn game too. So I think it's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur was on my Washington Commanders staff with Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and a host of others that are
they were like 15 years old. Yeah. Like they're all young.
Great coaches in this league, and we
McDaniel was on that staff too, I think.
That's right. I believe you're right about that. All right. Well, I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to is, listen, is Kansas City for real? Like, I understand they're one of the best teams in the AFC, but when I juxtapose them, sorry, Buckets, against, let's say, the Eagles or the San Francisco 49ers, the team I think is the best in the NFL, I'm not so sure I think they can beat those two teams. And I understand they just beat them last year, but I think it's a different ballgame this year. And I think I need to see at some point before the playoffs, the Kansas City Chiefs really showing out and showing that their offense is completely in sync. So, I mean, maybe we find out tonight, maybe we find out in 2 weeks, but I think it would be a nice start for them to really kind of blow a team out and say, hey, the Kansas City Chiefs are here and we're not going anywhere. We're going to win the Super Bowl again. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show tonight. Join us again tomorrow. Again, we've got Early Edge Primetime tomorrow for Monday Night Football. We got the Early Edge at 10 in the morning and all the other Early Edge programming. Obviously, be a member at SportsLine so you can see all our picks early. But with all that said, there's only one thing left for me to do. What is it again? Oh, that's right. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these tickets straight. It's over here to the pay window for AB, for Coach Phil. And by the way, for AB on the ones and twos and giving out a million picks. He's just amazing. But for AB, for Coach Phil, I am the counselor. This is the Early Edge, and we rest our case.